Have you ever felt like there's something inside of you, a force you can't quite name, that pushes you towards certain decisions, certain paths, but you have no idea why? It's like you're following a script you didn't write, and yet every action feels preordained, even if you don't want it to. Every time you think you've gained control, you realize this silent force is still pulling the strings, guiding you, manipulating your thoughts and choices. But here's the truth. This force is not some external enemy. It's not the world that's holding you back, it's you. Deep inside, hidden beneath your awareness, there's a part of you that's been silently driving your every move, dictating the rhythm of your life. You're living out patterns you don't fully understand. But what if I told you that facing this force, this silent, powerful driver, is the key to unlocking everything you've been craving? The question is, will you dare to look inward and confront the silent force that shapes you? Or will you continue to let it control your life from the shadows? You wake up in the morning, already feeling a weight in your chest, an unease that you can't quite place. You go through the motions of your day, checking the boxes: work, social media, eating, exercising, but something feels off. You tell yourself you're in control, that you're making these choices consciously. But what if you're not? What if everything you've been doing, every thought, every decision, every action, is not as free as you think? What if there's something far deeper hidden beneath the surface that's quietly dictating your every move? It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? To realize that perhaps your life isn't entirely yours to control, that there are invisible forces at play, shaping your destiny in ways you've never noticed. This is the power of the unconscious mind, the silent puppet master pulling the strings. You might think you're in charge of your life, but the truth is, many of your actions, desires, and decisions are fueled by a part of you that lies beneath your conscious awareness. It's the accumulated sum of your past experiences, your fears, the people you've met, the places you've been, and all the memories, some of them forgotten, shaping you without your permission. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself caught in the same patterns of behavior, the same mistakes, over and over again, despite your best intentions to change? The mind has a way of protecting you from discomfort, from confronting the painful truths of the past. So, it locks away memories, creates defenses, and molds your worldview in ways that keep you stuck, yet comfortable. It's as though there's an unseen hand guiding your every move, coaxing you into reactions you don't fully understand. You might find yourself repeating the same unhealthy patterns in relationships or career choices. You may feel compelled to stay in situations that don't serve you, or hesitate when you should act. The questions arise. Why can't I just change? Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I break free from this cycle? The answers don't lie in surface-level reasoning or rational thought. The truth is buried in the layers of your unconscious mind, where your past is locked away, and your fears and desires have merged into an invisible force that drives you, often without your knowledge. These are the forces that shape the way you see the world, the way you react to it, and the way you keep yourself safe or trapped. But here's the unsettling part. You can't escape these forces until you first see them, until you begin to recognize the unconscious patterns that are shaping your every move. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about confronting what has always been hidden from your view. The real question is not why you act the way you do, but what is silently driving you, lurking in the background, shaping the course of your life in ways you never imagined. The truth will make you uncomfortable, but it's only by acknowledging the puppet master in the shadows that you can finally begin to pull at the strings and reclaim control over your own destiny. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, every thought that crosses your mind, what if they are not as spontaneous as they seem? What if they are echoes of a past you can barely remember, yet continue to shape your present without you even knowing it? It's easy to think we've moved on. Time passes, and we believe we're different, that we've left behind the mistakes, the heartache, the confusion of our past. But the truth is, the past never really leaves. It doesn't stay locked away in some distant part of your mind. It's more insidious than that. It lives on in the way you see the world, in the way you feel about yourself, and in the unconscious decisions you make every single day. Think back to your childhood. What were the messages you received about love, about success, about who you were allowed to be? Perhaps you were taught to be perfect, to never show vulnerability. Maybe your sense of worth was tied to performance or approval from others. Perhaps you learned that emotions were dangerous, or that being anything less than strong was a sign of failure. These early lessons were not just words, they were the foundation of your belief system, shaping the way you view yourself and your world. They became the invisible script you follow, even when you don't realize it. But what happens when those childhood experiences, those quiet, often unspoken messages, get buried so deep in your subconscious that you don't even see them? What happens when the scars from those early years continue to influence your life without your conscious permission? They fester in the shadows, influencing your decisions, your fears, and your insecurities in ways that you can't even trace back. You might find yourself overcompensating for fears of rejection or seeking validation in places that only leave you feeling empty. You may push away love because deep down you don't feel worthy of it. Or you might find yourself repeatedly falling into relationships and situations that reflect the old wounds you've never healed. You may not realize it, but the parts of you that remain unhealed are the parts that dictate how you respond to the world. Those unresolved childhood wounds become the lens through which you view everything, and they shape your every reaction. You might snap at someone when you feel threatened, or hold yourself back from reaching your full potential because you're afraid of failing like you did before. These fears, these responses, they're not just how you are. They are the echo of your past, playing out in your present. The hardest truth is that these old wounds, these echoes, never really disappear. They linger, waiting to control you unless you take the time to confront them. The question is, can you look into the shadows of your past and confront the fears and insecurities you've been carrying for so long? Until you do, they will continue to cast their influence over your future. They will continue to shape your choices, your relationships, and your life in ways you're not fully aware of. But confronting them is the only way to free yourself. The past has no power over you unless you give it permission to continue controlling you. Have you ever found yourself stuck, not because you don't want more out of life, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you change? You tell yourself you want to be free, free from the pain, free from the fear, free from the habits that keep you small. And yet, the moment change comes knocking at your door, you hesitate. Even when the life you're living no longer serves you, you resist. The paradox is undeniable. You want something better for yourself, but you're terrified of what it would take to get there. Why is it so hard to embrace the very thing that promises to set you free? The answer lies in the comfort of the known. Even when your old habits are painful, when your relationships are draining, your job unfulfilling, or your life feels like it's stuck in a loop of monotony, the familiar weight of these patterns feels safer than the unknown. It's strange, isn't it? You know these habits aren't healthy, but at least they're predictable. At least they don't require you to face the terrifying uncertainty of change. It's almost as if you've built a cage around yourself, a cage made of habits, beliefs, and self-imposed limits. You've convinced yourself that it's easier to stay in this cage than to risk stepping out into the unknown, even if that unknown could lead to the very things you've been yearning for. Why? Because stepping into the unknown means confronting the one thing you fear most, the possibility that you might not be who you think you are. The possibility that your old self, the one you've clung to for so long, isn't the real you at all. So, you stay. You stay in relationships that drain you, in jobs that numb you, in ways of thinking that keep you small. The chains are invisible, yet they are real. They are made of fear, insecurity, and the belief that you need to stay safe, even if that safety is suffocating you. And that's where the real challenge lies. To break free from the chains, you must first acknowledge they exist. You must see that the very thing you cling to, the comfort of the known, is the thing keeping you from the life you truly desire. It's not easy to face this truth. In fact, it's painful. But without that awareness, you will continue to repeat the same patterns, feeling the same frustration, and yearning for a change that will never come. Breaking free requires courage. But more than that, it requires deep honesty. It requires you to look at the chains you've built around yourself and understand why you're so terrified of letting them go. It's only when you can see the truth of your fears that you can begin to loosen the grip the known has on you and step into a future that's waiting to be written. The real freedom lies in the courage to let go of the familiar, to stop living according to the limitations you've placed on yourself, and to embrace the uncertainty of who you are becoming. How many times have you convinced yourself that, if you could just control everything, your environment, your emotions, your future, then, and only then, would you be at peace? We've all been sold this lie. Success, happiness, inner peace. They all come with control. If you can just manage it all, your career, your relationships, your health, your thoughts, everything will fall into place, and life will be good. But what if everything you've been striving for, everything you think you need to be happy, is rooted in a lie? What if control, the very thing you've been grasping for, the thing that feels so right, is actually the thing that's keeping you stuck? What if the harder you try to control your life, the more you sabotage your own peace? Think about it. Every time you try to control something, your emotions, a conversation, a future outcome, you create a tight, invisible grip around your world. That grip is filled with anxiety. You try to predict every possible outcome, micromanage every situation, and bend reality to your will. The problem? You can never fully control everything. Life will always throw curveballs. People will act unpredictably. Your body will have its own rhythms, your mind its own whims. And so, the more you try to control, the more tension you create. It's exhausting, isn't it? You spend your energy managing your fear, controlling your reactions, anticipating future problems. It's a cycle that only feeds itself, leaving you constantly on edge, always preparing for the worst, but never able to fully embrace the present moment. The lie of control tells you that you need to have everything figured out. It tells you that your worth is tied to how much you can handle, how much you can manage. But the truth is, the more you try to control your world, the more you lose control over yourself. You become consumed by fear, insecurity, and the constant pressure to maintain perfection. In trying to manage everything around you, you neglect the one thing you can control, your response to life. What if, instead of controlling everything, you allowed life to unfold as it will? What if, instead of fighting the flow, you surrendered to the present moment and trusted that you are enough, just as you are? Imagine the freedom in that, no longer chasing after every fleeting thing, no longer holding on to the false sense of security that control offers. True strength doesn't lie in making everything fit perfectly into your expectations. True strength is found in surrendering to what you cannot change, and in trusting that your value doesn't depend on your ability to control the chaos of life. It's about letting go of the illusion of control and embracing the uncertainty of the present. What would it feel like to stop fighting against the current and allow yourself to be carried by it? What would happen if you stopped measuring your worth by how much you can control and, instead, accepted that you are enough, even in your moments of vulnerability? The path to true peace lies not in controlling the world around you, but in letting go of the need to control it at all, in releasing the burden of perfection and stepping into the reality of who you are, right now, as you are. And in that surrender, you'll find the strength you've been searching for all along. Your whole life, you've been accumulating achievements, possessions, accolades, and, most of all, a sense of self. You've collected validation from others, clung to success, and held on to the belief that the more you have, the more you are. Each milestone, each goal reached, each approval received, has been a layer you added to the version of yourself you show the world. But what happens when you let go of it all? The thought alone might send a shiver down your spine. You might feel the tightening in your chest as you imagine releasing the things you've spent your entire life building. Without them, who would you be? What would you be? The idea of letting go feels terrifying because it feels like losing control. If you release your need for validation, what's left to define you? If you stop holding on to the things and people that have shaped your identity, will you lose yourself entirely. But here's the paradox. To truly find yourself, you must first lose everything you thought you were. The person you've become, the identity you've worked so hard to build, was never truly you. It was a collection of roles, labels, and expectations you've gathered over time. And while there's nothing wrong with these accomplishments or possessions, holding onto them so tightly is what's keeping you from discovering who you really are. Think about it. The tighter you grip onto these external markers of success and worth, the more you anchor yourself to a version of yourself that isn't real. What you cling to, the validation, the material wealth, the perfect image of who you think you should be, is only a facade. Beneath that facade is the raw, authentic you. And the truth is, the longer you hold on, the harder it becomes to find that truth. But letting go is not the same as losing. The fear of loss is a lie that holds you back. When you release your attachment to your false identity, whether it's a job title, a relationship, or the need for constant approval, you don't lose yourself. You gain freedom. You gain clarity. You gain the opportunity to discover who you are when all the distractions are stripped away. This isn't about abandoning your values or your goals. It's about shedding the layers of expectations and fears that have been placed on you, whether by others or by your own mind. Letting go means embracing uncertainty, stepping away from the safety of control, and trusting that the real you is enough without all the accumulated weight of validation. You're afraid that if you let go, you'll fall apart. But in reality, it's the very act of holding on that's keeping you stuck. Letting go isn't a loss, it's the ultimate form of freedom. It's your opportunity to step into a life that isn't defined by what you've gathered, but by who you truly are beneath it all. What would it be like to stop measuring your worth by what you've accumulated, and instead embrace the freedom of being? What if the truest version of yourself is waiting just beyond the things you're afraid to release? Letting go isn't losing everything. It's about gaining everything that matters: peace, authenticity, and the power to live freely as you truly are. What if everything you've been working toward, everything you've been striving for, isn't really yours at all? What if all those goals, those dreams, those expectations you've been chasing aren't even the ones that truly speak to your soul? What if, for all this time, you've been living someone else's dream, or worse, a dream imposed on you by society, by family, by a world that told you who you should be? This is the most terrifying question you'll ever face, because it cuts to the heart of everything you've built. It questions everything you've invested your time and energy into. It forces you to confront a painful truth. You may have been living a life that was never truly yours. You may have been wearing a mask for so long that you've forgotten what your real face looks like. The call to authenticity is not a gentle nudge. It's a radical, earth-shattering shift. It's the invitation to tear down the walls you've built to protect yourself, to let go of the armor you've been wearing to fit in. It asks you to step away from the carefully crafted version of yourself that the world has accepted, and to show up as you truly are. For so long, you've been trying to fit into someone else's box, the successful version, the perfect version, the version that others would approve of. You've shaped yourself into an image that's not entirely yours, one that was shaped by society's expectations, family pressures, the fear of not being good enough. But the question is, who are you beneath all that? Who are you without the titles, the validation, the achievements that others measure you by? The hardest part is not recognizing this truth. It's the courage it takes to face it. Because letting go of this illusion of who you are can feel like you're losing everything. What happens if you stop pretending to be someone you're not? What happens if you shed the expectations that others have placed on you and start living in a way that honors your true self, no matter how uncomfortable that might be? It's a painful process, no doubt. Authenticity doesn't always come in neat, tidy packages. It's messy, it's raw, it's vulnerable. But that's the beauty of it. It's real. And the more you strip away the layers, the more you step into a life that aligns with who you really are. Ask yourself, are you ready to stop pretending? Are you ready to confront the person you've been avoiding? The one you've kept hidden behind all the walls, behind all the shoulds and oughts, behind all the fears that have kept you small. Because until you face that truth, until you embrace your authentic self, you'll keep living a life that isn't truly yours. It's time to stop living for others, for society, or for an image that's been constructed from outside influences. It's time to tear down the walls and step into the rawness of who you truly are. Yes, it's terrifying, but it's also the most liberating step you will ever take. The question is, will you answer the call? Will you have the courage to stand in your truth and live authentically, no matter how uncomfortable or uncertain it feels? You've spent so much time searching, questioning, peeling back the layers of your life, only to realize one painful truth. The forces that have been driving you are not as invisible as you thought. You've recognized the puppet master pulling the strings, the unconscious patterns, the past wounds, the fears, the expectations. And yet, here you are, standing at the precipice of something even more terrifying, the moment when you must act. This is the moment when awareness alone is no longer enough. You've seen the truth about yourself. You've seen the silent forces that have shaped your choices, your actions, your entire life. But now comes the hardest question of all. What will you do with that truth? Awakening is not a passive experience. It's not about realizing where you've been or understanding why you've acted the way you have. Awakening demands action. It demands that you make a choice. It's not enough to simply wake up. You must choose whether you will continue to live under the influence of everything that's been shaping you in the shadows, or if you will finally step into the light of conscious living. The tension has been building. For so long, you've lived in a state of quiet resistance, caught between wanting change and fearing it. The truth is uncomfortable. It means you cannot go back to being who you once were. Once you see what's been controlling you, you can never unsee it. And that's where the awakening becomes a turning point. You either stay where you are, comfortable in your familiar pain and patterns, or you step into the unknown, into the discomfort of true change. Here's the brutal reality. The life you've been living, the habits, the fears, the cycles isn't just going to change by wishing it so. You cannot keep waiting for the perfect moment, for the conditions to be just right, or for the world to give you permission to change. Awakening is a responsibility, and it requires courage. The discomfort you feel now, the resistance, is the last wall holding you in place. But to step forward, you must embrace that discomfort, knowing it is the only path to true freedom. This is where you decide whether you will remain in the safety of the familiar, or if you will take the step into the unknown, where all possibilities exist. To awaken means to confront the hard truths you've been avoiding. It means surrendering to the uncertainty of growth, knowing that only by walking through the discomfort will you find your true self. The hardest part is this. You can no longer pretend you don't know. You know what's been holding you back. You know the silent forces that have shaped your life. And now, it's time to choose. Will you continue to live in the comfort of what's known, even if it's painful and limiting? Or will you step into the freedom that comes with embracing change, knowing it's the only path to becoming who you were always meant to be? This is your moment of awakening. The choice is yours. You've faced the silent forces that have driven your life, and now the path ahead is clear, yet it's more daunting than ever before. You've awakened to the truths of your past, confronted the hidden wounds and beliefs that have shaped you, and seen the invisible chains that have held you back. But now, the question is, where do you go from here? Awakening is not the end of the journey, it's just the beginning. And now, with the weight of those truths behind you, you must step forward, consciously and deliberately. This is where you move from simply being aware of your limitations to actually breaking free from them. You're no longer living a life dictated by unconscious patterns. Now, you're stepping into a life shaped by conscious choice. But that doesn't mean the road will be easy. It doesn't mean the old forces will magically disappear. The fear, the doubt, the resistance, it's all still there. But now, you have the power to choose. Every decision you make from here on out is not just an act of defiance against the past, it's an act of reclamation, reclaiming your life, your truth, your voice. You've learned so much about yourself on this journey, the lies you've told yourself, the fears that have held you captive, and the raw, unfiltered truths that have been waiting to be acknowledged. And now, you're in a position to use all of this to build a new life. A life not defined by what others expect of you, or by the unconscious forces of your past, but a life led by your awakened, authentic self. This is where the real work begins. The work of letting go of what no longer serves you, of shedding the false versions of yourself that you've clung to for so long. It's about stepping into the discomfort of the unknown with courage, knowing that on the other side of that discomfort lies your true freedom. Every step forward is an act of bravery, of breaking free from the limitations that once defined you. There will be moments of doubt, of temptation to fall back into old habits, but you now know that those old patterns are not you. They are just echoes of a past version of yourself that no longer has power over your present. But the truth is, this is just the beginning. You've taken the first step, acknowledging the forces that have held you in place, but now you must continue the journey. As you build this new life, remember that it's not about perfection. It's about being present, being authentic, and making choices that align with the truest, most unapologetic version of yourself. You're walking a new path now, one that leads to deeper self-awareness, true freedom, and a life that is entirely your own. The road ahead may be uncertain, but it is yours to walk. And with every step you take, you'll realize that the most powerful force in your life is no longer the past. It's your own conscious choice. The journey doesn't end here. It's only just begun.